All right, let's dive into something, well, a little weird and really fascinating. What if I told you that the key to finally getting things done, to breaking through those personal walls, isn't just about psychology? What if it's actually hidden in the strange rules of quantum physics? Today, we're going to connect those two worlds to unlock a powerful new way to think about personal change. And it all kicks off with a question we've all asked ourselves.
Seriously, why is it so tough? You know you should be looking for that new job, or learning that skill, or just getting started on that big project. But you just don't. You feel stuck. And that feeling, that inertia, can be incredibly frustrating. And here's the thing, it's not because you're lazy, it's not a failure of willpower. We all smack into these invisible walls, and they're built out of some really powerful psychological traps that just kind of keep us locked in place, even when we're desperate to move forward.
So, if we want to figure out how to get past these walls, first we've got to understand what they're made of. We need a diagnosis. And lucky for us, behavioral economics gives us a couple of huge clues.
Okay, so first up is something called present bias. This is basically our brain's knack for blowing up the pain of doing something right now. Think about updating your resume. Yeah, the long-term reward is great, a new job, but the immediate cost, oh man, the mental energy, the focus, facing that blank page, it feels enormous. So our brain chooses the immediate reward, which is just not dealing with it. Procrastination wins again.
And the second piece of the puzzle, it's called reference point dependency. This is where we get stuck anchoring ourselves to a past version of who we were. You see this all the time with job searches, right? Someone can't accept a job that pays less than their last job, even if the world has totally changed. They're so locked onto that old number, that old reference point, that they're completely blind to the good opportunities sitting right in front of them now.
Okay, so we've got the diagnosis, but now this is where we take a really interesting turn. What if we stopped looking at this as just a problem with our brains and started looking at it like a physics problem? Let's borrow an idea from the super strange world of quantum mechanics to completely reframe this challenge.
You see, in quantum physics, if a particle wants to change its state, say from a low-energy one to a high-energy one, it has to get over an energy wall. It's called a potential barrier. So let's think about our own challenges that way. That effort it takes to update your resume, that's not a character flaw. It's a real energy barrier you have to cross to get to a new state, the state of having a new job.
I love this quote because it just flips the whole script. You're not lazy, you're not unmotivated. You're just a particle hanging out in a comfy, low-energy valley. See the shift? The problem isn't a flaw in you, it's a feature of the system you're currently in. So the real question is, how does a particle get out of the valley?
Well, in the everyday world we see, you'd think you'd need this massive burst of energy to climb over that big wall. But this is quantum mechanics, and it has a much weirder, much cooler trick up its sleeve.
It's called the quantum tunneling effect, and it's a real thing. It's this wild phenomenon where a particle that absolutely does not have enough energy to go over the barrier can sometimes just poof, appear on the other side. It doesn't fight the wall, it tunnels straight through it, which leads to a pretty mind-blowing question. Could we do that with our own personal barriers?
Let's just look at the difference here. Climbing the wall, that's the brute force method. That's pure willpower, a ton of energy, and let's be honest, the chance of failure is pretty high. We get exhausted and slide back down. But tunneling, that's a whole different game. It's not about force. It's about changing the probability of a breakthrough. And you do that by changing the environment around the barrier.
Okay, so this sounds amazing in a physics lab, but how in the world do we actually do it? How do we trigger our own little quantum tunneling effect to get past procrastination and finally get moving? Well, the answer is all about making small, really smart changes to our surroundings.
And our secret weapon for this is something called a nudge. It's an idea from behavioral economics. And it's basically a small, gentle push that guides you toward making a better choice, but without forcing you. Think of these nudges as the tools we use to make that quantum tunnel a lot more likely to happen. So here are 3 super practical nudges you can set up. First, create deadlines. Deadlines completely change the physics of the situation. Suddenly, that long-term goal isn't so long-term anymore. It's urgent. And that urgency dramatically increases the odds you'll just tunnel right through the task. Second, simplify procedures. This is all about lowering the height of the barrier. If learning a skill means you have to read a huge, boring textbook, that's a high barrier. But what if it's just using a fun app for 5 minutes a day? The barrier is way lower and tunneling is much more probable. And finally, schedule check-ins. This brings in another cool quantum idea, the Zeno effect.
Basically, just the act of observing something can keep it from changing. So if you have a friend check in on your progress, you're observing your goal, which makes it way harder to slip back into that lazy, low-energy state. Okay, let's put it all together. What this is all about is a huge shift in how we think about making changes. We have to stop trying to be the hero who conquers mountains with sheer grit, and instead become the smart architect who designs a cleverer path forward.
This quote from the source material just says it all, doesn't it? The best way to change isn't to demand more from ourselves, to just try harder. It's to design a better system, our environment, our habits, our social circles, that acts like a series of quantum circuits, making that breakthrough, that tunneling effect, almost inevitable.
So, what do you need to walk away with? Just remember this. Feeling stuck is a systems problem, not a you problem. Your goals are just new energy states on the other side of a potential barrier. And instead of trying to scale that wall with brute force, you can use small, smart nudges to up your chances of just tunneling right through. It's all about designing your environment, not just disciplining yourself.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Take a second and think about the big challenges in your own life right now. What is that one wall you have been wearing yourself out trying to climb? And what's one small nudge, one little change you could make to your environment to start tunneling through it instead?